So this is episode 88 of our talk. And after a long hiatus, I'm back with my first guest, Anikó Boda. Anikó Boda is a painter of imaginary realism. She's a thinker and a storyteller. She initially studied medicine before she dived into art and studied in New York the Art Student League, the School of Visual Arts, then the Hungarian Academy of Fine Arts, Master, and finally in Schatz Studio. So welcome, Aniko. What a pleasure to finally have you as my guest.
Thank you for having me, Karin. It's so great to talk to you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I went through your site. I looked in what you do, and it's amazing stuff you paint. You studied art for 15 years. That is honing your skill.
Let's say 10. I think 15. Okay, I studied art all of my life. But I mean, academically, about 10 years.
Yeah. And do you still hone your skills every day?
Well, of course, I teach myself. You know, there is no such thing like, okay, so what I tell my students, I don't teach how to paint a horse. I don't teach how to paint a flower. There is no such thing. They ask me, oh, please, teach me how to paint a husky dog, for example. I want them to understand that it's not possible to teach every single object how to paint, but you have to learn to see, then you can paint everything. But in case of a realist painter, in our life, with every new painting, there is always something new we have to experiment about the painting techniques of, and I have to figure out if I encounter something I haven't painted before, how to represent it.
Yeah,
And you know what? I still keep asking people that, do you know what is this special thing in the painting? I show them that part because I know what I wanted to paint, but that's my side, and I'm not sure that the viewer can identify correctly what I wanted to put in the painting.
Is that
So
important for you?
it is important because clear communication is very important for me. That's why I paint my works to communicate with the viewer.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. And I really love what you say. I can't teach you how to paint a flower or a horse. I can only teach you how to see. Observation is key, isn't it?
Sure, that's. I always tell everybody that I don't paint a horse. I don't paint a house, a person, or something. I I paint the horsiness of all horses, the strength of the horse, the speed, the beauty, the lines of their body. So the horse I paint has to express all the best qualities of all the horses living on earth. So we always express generalized ideas. Okay, they also have specific attributes like the color and how long their legs are, for example. So it doesn't mean that if I do portraiture, you cannot identify the sitters. Of course, you can, because that's also important. But I try to grab qualities which belong to the general aspect. For example, all the copper dishes. So I don't know how to express it more clearly, but I think really good realist painters, they don't stick to certain tiny details, and everything of the real object in front of them, but they can paint many things. Most of the object can be painted by heart, because you know how, for example, a metal, an iron, or a wood or something, leather, hair, fur, anything, any kind of object should look, and you can a little bit personify it, that general idea, and that's how you get that specific thing you have to paint in that given painting.
Yeah, exactly. You say that's so beautiful. Yeah, because when you do portraits too, and you do portrait
Sure.
commissions. Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
people want to be in that portrait, otherwise they wouldn't commission you.
Mhm.
I don't know if you relate to this, but I always tap into their energy. So I can paint their story, something that they don't see within themselves, but I can see it.
In my case, it normally works the other way around.
Mm.
But it was really strange for me. I never wanted to be a portrait artist, but
That's
because
yeah,
I
interesting.
wanted to tell stories. I didn't want to paint portraits, people's portraits, but after the initial phase of being exhibited in art fairs and stuff, people went into my gallery and they asked if they could be in my paintings.
Mm.
So people are attracted to the atmosphere, the paintings, the stories so much that I had to paint many versions of my own work,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and just with other faces. So I asked them to photograph themselves in the same poses like I used in the original work,
Mm-hmm.
and I adjusted the size of the work to the given space I was asked. And so those are not really portraits,
Yeah,
but more like figurative works with commissioned faces. I don't.
interesting. Really interesting.
You cannot see them on my homepage because I don't consider them as separate works. They are part of series.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you say just, I wanted to paint stories, and you paint stories, and they
Yeah,
are really
yeah,
complex too, because when you
yeah.
look at them the first time, you think like, oh my God, I have to, there's so much in this.
Mhm.
What made you express yourself this way?
I'm a philosopher.
Hmm.
First and foremost, I think all the time. Sometimes I even overanalyze things in my private life. It's it. What's my advantage is also my drawback, and it's a very complicated kind of lifestyle. I did not choose it for myself. I was born like that. Just
Mm-hmm.
I I describe myself as a kind of radio relay, or um, I am like a yes, a sign receiver working
Mm-hmm.
on two legs. I collect impressions from everywhere all the time, even from my dreams. So I I keep working on my paintings 24/7, really. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I write. I don't sketch. I write down
Mm-hmm.
the stories
Mm-hmm.
I dreamt about, and and I always think them through again, and oh, I realize that this thought is connected to another one, and also there's a consequence, and all all these stories at the end become like an epic novel, like a really, really long novel, like War and Peace, for example, or Karamazov Brothers, or these classic novels
Yeah,
in
yeah,
my
yeah.
head. And since I work on a piece for weeks, for months, for 2 months, I really have time to finish my own book.
Mm.
And sometimes, the paintings tell me what to do. They develop themselves because I always have two seeds. I call them seeds of paintings.
Mhm.
One is a theoretical seed. I know I have a problem of philosophical um issue, for example, I want to talk about, but I also have a central visual motive, which is gonna be the focus of the painting. And I built all the visual clothes around that central seed. When I start the painting, I'm not 100% sure what I want to include in. More I know what I don't want.
But that's
And
always the case. People always know better what they don't want than what they want, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't bother so much
Mm.
about the exact setup of the final painting because,
Mhm.
you know, I try to explain people the way I think not just me but every artist how we work. Like it's exactly like visiting a foreign city. Uh, for example, I've never been to Rome, and I decide I want to visit Rome, and I start to gather information about Rome. I check uh, the Google Maps. I ask other people who have already been to Rome, and I do the booking.com job and everything. I prepare myself with as much information as I can, but I still don't know how Rome looks like. I know how Rome looks like when I get there. So even I'm so much surprised at the end how my picture turns out. And you know what? These weeks and months they just fly away because I'm so excited that how my work will turn out.
Mm.
And then, so it's like being living in the flow.
Yeah, and it sounds like, well, I wanted to ask you a bit about your thought process. You already told us now, but it also sounds like you are on a journey yourself whilst painting.
Yeah.
And then it is exciting because in a way you're on a journey where you have an idea somewhere there. For you it's clear, but visually you're still working towards that and you want to go there. So it's exciting. It's like you walking towards Rome in this instance.
Mhm.
Like, okay, now I found it there. That's where I want to go. I take my backpack and I walk towards it. You paint
Mhm.
towards it.
Yeah.
Something like that. Is
Mhm.
that true?
Yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah, it's amazing because your paintings are complex and I love to look at it and to watch them. You also are yeah, you paint in the old master style, especially
Mhm.
with your old pen. What is your biggest inspiration from the old masters? Who is?
I started out with Rembrandt, of course, when I
Mm.
was very young, as everybody else. Then Rembrandt was followed by Odd Nerdrum, of course. I don't know if you know him, a no, sorry, Norwegian contemporary
Mm.
painter, Odd Nerdrum. Basically, I think the whole contemporary realism. I mean, the big peak of abstraction. We all came out of his heritage. He's still alive anyway, so he's 80
Oh, okay.
something now. Yeah.
Nice. Has he seen your work?
I don't think so.
Oh, you don't have contact with him. You don't have the feeling like, well,
No, no,
I mean,
no. Eh,
no?
Actually, he has a school in Norway,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't dare to go there because his effect is so big on me that I was afraid of losing myself if
Oh
I
my
go
God. Yeah.
there. You know, I don't know if you ever had this feeling with someone who is such a big personality and you love their work so much. And you know what? It's not a fear without base because
Mm.
there is a group of artists who are called Nerdrumeski, means followers of Nerdrum,
Okay. Yeah.
and it's coming from the Italian version. But their work looks exactly like their master's work. I don't like this idea. I don't think that you should teach people. Even, he has to establish Odd Nerdrum Institute, and the institute main task is to tell the originals from the followers' work, because now there are so many followers worldwide that collectors are not sure that who is really the author of the work.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is a problem, I think. It's the teacher who is teaching his students how they have to paint like him, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think you're a good teacher when you do that, to be honest.
I
Maybe
agree.
that's maybe that's a bit harsh to say, but I think it's an ego problem you have when you do that. If you're a good teacher, you teach you inspire people to become their authentic selves. You teach them how to use oil paint so that it doesn't fall off the canvas after 5 6 years,
Mhm.
or how they can paint in a way that it is really three-dimensional and feels like realistic, but be yourself. Don't
Exactly. I think that as teachers, we can teach the ABC
you? Yeah,
of painting,
yeah.
but you cannot teach people how to express themselves with their knowledge. Okay, there are basic tasks of like composition,
Mm.
color theory, whatever, but it's still not yet art, and without the craft part, at least with realism or imaginary realism, it's not possible to express yourself if
Exactly.
you don't know drawing, colors,
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah,
geometry,
yeah. But that is the
whatever.
basic. That is the
Then,
basic that people need to learn to become an artist in the first place. I mean, that's the basic of art, and then you can learn how to express yourself, because then you have the tools to express yourself. Without the tools, you can't. But copying your master is not being an artist,
sure.
in my perspective, at least. So, yeah.
Mhm.
But
No,
also, when we teach, we should teach. Now, well, I tend to say, okay, teaching to a certain point, but then it becomes inspiring.
yeah, I have a very nice metaphor for teaching.
Mm-hmm.
It means that reaching your goals in art is the same like trying to climb a very high mountain.
Yeah.
And the teacher can take you, like a horse carriage, for example, to the base camp, halfway of the mountain. And you can climb yourself to the base camp without a teacher, but you can spare so much time by learning from other people. Just you don't have to waste your time with trying to find out everything from the beginning again.
No.
Because during these centuries of art, there is a huge knowledge of the craftsmanship
Yeah.
which was gathered, and you don't have to discover things which were known 200 years ago again for yourself, but
No.
you can
No.
learn from your teachers this stuff. So you can get halfway to the top of the mountain, to the base camp. But from the base camp, nobody on earth can help you to get to the peak, to your art.
No.
That is the part that you have to look for in yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. But then you need your imagination. And like you do, you write down your dreams. You think and you see things around you and you draw them into your stories. And then your journey begins and you keep growing on that. Um, yeah, it's an interesting journey, and it's interesting to talk about teaching and inspiring. Um, what can people learn actually from your art? Do they tell you what they learn from your art when they see it?
Mm.
I'm
I
curious
don't know
about that.
if I don't want to teach with my art. It's not the primary goal. I would like to to call their attention to certain thoughts. These are called conversation pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It means that if you have a painting like this in your home and you have visitors, for example, everyone can have their own version of what they see. They always get the original story, of course, because I have my story.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
these kind of paintings have to inspire you to develop your own story according to what you see. You know, sometimes when I hear people's stories about my painting, I just keep laughing because I never ever thought such things. They explain me what they are thinking of, so it's very funny, really. But they love to know my story, and it doesn't really matter what is my story. At the end, it's like like every nation has its own folk tales,
Yeah.
and people always add little things to that tale, or they compare their tales to another nation's folk tale, because the how can I tell you, the basic motifs in the folk tales and also in religions, for example, are quite similar.
Mm.
Doesn't matter if it's South America, Africa, Asia. There are stories how the world was created, and there are repeating motifs like the huge flood which destroyed the whole world, and the world was recreated. And these kind of stories somehow are in us, inside us, and I just have to pick something which can resonate with everybody, and then they can develop their own complex stories and feelings. That in the strange thing with me that I've never been interested in feelings. Artists are most likely connected with emotionality, and we paint out of feelings, and I don't know what. I never did. I've never ever
You never did. Oh, that's interesting because
uh,
yeah, I am, as you see, a realistic painter, but for me, it's a lot about feelings also. I feel into the people I paint.
sure.
I am
But
also an
that's
art
how.
historian and philosopher, I am. But feeling is definitely part of my process.
I
Definitely.
I don't have this part,
Oh, yeah. When
really.
I had to paint a portrait of someone who passed suddenly,
Oh,
and he didn't want to be painted, and I could feel because I couldn't get him on the canvas, and then I had to tap into his energy. I have to feel into it. That is how it works for me. It's so interesting. Every artist has his own process in that.
exactly.
But it's interesting that you say, if you look at your paintings, I feel so freaking much. And then you say, I don't have feelings about it.
No, 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 no. I'm very mechanic in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
How I put my paintings together. Uh, I use the word exciting or not exciting. If something makes the painting more exciting, I include it. But if it's boring, I leave it out. That's basically this is not emotion. I don't think it is.
But boring can be an emotion. I mean, boring is a feeling you don't want to
Yeah,
have. And
yeah.
excitement is a feeling you have because so you have feeling, but you don't think like that then, probably.
When I asked how I choose what to include in a painting,
Yeah.
I answer, sorry, this won't be very nice, but my armpit tells me so. if
Okay. Hmm.
if I if I feel hot under my armpit, it means that it's good. I use my body to
So,
to
and then
choose
tell me
how to.
about feeling. You
Yeah,
definitely feel. I mean, you have a thought process and you see specific problems. And we talk about it later, the politicians, because there's so much humor in
yeah,
that too. For me, when I look at it,
yeah. It is
the
human.
title alone. But that's definitely feeling. Your body speaks to you, and you feel that, and you know. Then you know. So
Mhm.
you feel.
Thank you.
You feel.
Now you know, Karin, now I learned something from you. It's so great that I always learn. Like it's a lifelong learning. Now I'm learning from you about myself.
Yeah, but it is everything is a lifelong learning. And I heard someone say lately, like, especially in the world we live now with social. And you said in the beginning, I can't teach you how to paint a horse or a flower. I can teach you how to see, but that takes time.
Yeah,
That takes slowing down time.
yeah.
And
I,
social demands now, tomorrow, yesterday,
and
which,
I will never forget that very frustrating experience. It was in New York in the art school when my teacher asked me, um, can't you see that light on the model? That he showed me with his finger, and I just didn't see anything, anything. And I thought to myself, "Oh my God, it's so terrible. I'm just blind or something. I didn't see."
I
That
had the
was.
same. I had the same. I was on the academy, and the professor said to me, "Don't paint what you don't see." Yeah, but I see it. No, you think you see it,
Mhm.
but you don't see it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was so frustrating that that time I thought I would never ever will make anything as an artist because I'm just blind. I see. And for so many years I threw away my works. I hated them.
Oh,
It's the most terrible experience when you have your children and you hate them all,
yeah,
and
that's
you are
terrible.
you are ashamed of them and you don't want to show them to anyone for
Wow.
years and
Mm.
years on. That's why I studied for 10 years, because I've never been satisfied, never.
Yeah,
And
but then still, Annika. I'm not always satisfied, but I try to say, okay, I correct myself. You didn't look, you were not focused on what you had to see. You're focused on getting it done. And I turn it around and say, okay, quiet down now and just look at it for 3 minutes, only at that piece for 3 minutes. Look at it and then put it down, put it down, that direction, the values, blah. And then it starts to come again. Because if we beat ourselves up, we end up throwing out everything in the bin. But we need it for our own process.
Sure. I think if someone is not willing to go through this process, then they won't make it. And
No.
you know what? How many artists I met who started abstract works because they gave up on figurative painting? You have no idea.
Oh, yeah, I have an idea. I know. I know a lot of people who do, and they say to me, I can't do that. And I say, that's not true. You can, but you have to learn to see. Observing is the most important part of the artist. Observe, observe, observe. Apart from the skills of how to use paint, how to draw, the values, the composition, etc. Learn to observe. Take your time to observe. And don't let anyone tell you that tomorrow you need to put it on social media. That's not true. Don't do it. And so, yeah, I know a lot of artists do this, and a lot of artists also say, well, if they can do this, then I can do that too. And they just throw something on the canvas and they think it is, and then you can see they don't understand composition. Also in abstract work, they don't understand color. So yeah, but let's go to this. Pro dulce of dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. You know exactly what I mean.
Yeah, and
it is from your painting Pro Patria Mori. Let me explain for the listeners. This is from a Roman poet, Horace, and the translation is, it's sweet and proper to die for one's country.
Yeah, it was a theory which was widely accepted till 19th century. I think.
Yeah.
When history painting was in rage, and we have a magnificent work in the National Gallery here in Budapest by Gyula Bencúr. He is a academic Hungarian painter, my favorite, all-time favorite, and even internationally favorite painter, which features a general on white horse, of course, because white horse is a symbol of leadership, always.
Yeah.
Napoleon and everybody
They're
is
all on a white horse.
They are sitting on white horses. So then seeing this picture, I was thinking about leaders of today, politicians, and I wanted to do a white horse battle scene.
But I had to laugh so hard when I saw it.
So it is a battle scene, actually.
Yeah.
Though it's a children's toy.
A children's toy.
Carousel.
Yeah.
It's not a life-size carousel. It's really a kid's toy. I enlarged it. I enlarged it to fit the size of the figures, and I had this feeling with politicians, at least in Hungary. Of course, I was thinking about my home country, but from a friend in New York, I got a message that how did you know how the politics works in New York? So I think it's general
It's
topic and
general.
it's the
Yeah.
same everywhere that
Yeah.
in Hungary on TV you can see always the same faces for years and years on. Just sometimes they are in the foreground, sometimes they are in the background. So it gave me this feel of looking at a carousel. These guys just come and go all the time, the same faces. They just change sometimes the name of their party, so they have a different colored stick, a
Mhm.
sword in their
Yeah.
hand,
I called it sables, but they're sticks. Yeah.
and they are so occupied with each other, with themselves, and with the fight that they don't realize that the homeland, which is uh, at the bottom of the painting, I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
the sun is going down.
Mm.
So the country is covered by darkness slowly. That's why it's night scene,
Yeah.
the whole painting.
But that, as serious as it is, because that's not only Hungary, it's also in the Netherlands, it's in the UK, it's in the US, it's everywhere. I found this also that it had a to be humorously sarcastic
Mhm. Yeah.
in a way.
I always say that artists also have to entertain themselves with the art.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we got bored. We get
Yeah,
bored, and
yeah.
it's not not a good thing. You know, uh, I listened to one of your podcasts and you and your guests were talking about burning out.
Mhm.
With me, it's the other way around. I have this feeling that I don't live long enough to paint everything I would like, because there are so many funny things in life. I mean, in politics, in religions and philosophy and everything, which we should think about at least.
Yeah,
That my life is short enough. I even work out 2 or 3 times a week in the hope of being able to live longer so I
the
can do
longevity.
more
Yeah.
paintings.
Well, I can tell
I don't
you,
care about my health. I just want to paint.
yeah. Well, I can tell you a little secret because I thought about that, and especially after everything that went down for years for me, this is my time, and I changed my diet,
Mhm,
like in and supplement and working out and walking and doing my yoga, etc.
mhm.
Because I had like, no, 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 no. I need to be 120 years old
Sure.
and die with the pencil, the brush in my hand.
In the
Because
studio, exactly.
yeah, so
I know this.
you have to work on your health and your energy to be able to do that. And I had like, no, I'm not going to turn old. I'm prolonging my life.
Sure, exactly.
That's way better. So I live healthy, I sleep enough, um, drink a lot of filtered water, supplement very good, feed my brain the proper fats, etc. All that stuff because I want to paint. There's so
Yeah,
much to paint.
exactly. That's the problem of artist life too. We have to find the right balance between
Yeah,
time we spend on our art and the time we spend on our being staying healthy or trying to conserve our life energy as much as we can. So we have to sleep well, and it's I have lots of non-artist friends, and they have so strange ideas about how artists
yeah,
live.
yeah.
I I don't go to parties every night. I don't drink from morning till night. Otherwise, how could I make such big paintings? It's not possible.
Exactly. Yeah, but that is the strange idea that was put in people's head by people in the 19th century who wrote about art and made them as if they were these very obstinate, rebellion, drunk, poor people living on a cold attic. And I had like, and how in the world do you think I can afford my paint and the canvas, the brushes, the time I put in to hone my skills every single day? Even if I do not have the time, I do it for 15 minutes, but I do it. So don't you think that I should think about my health? Don't you think that I would? How can I do that? And then they start to think, oh, yeah, I never thought about it. This is a romanticized idea.
Exactly.
But there are also artists who do. And I don't think they're artists. They are sitting in the pub, drinking the whole day and talking about how they are artists and they are stuck and they have these massive ideas, but they never do anything. And then you have Julia Cameron, and she says, when you don't paint or draw, you're not an artist. When you don't write, you're not a writer. It's as simple as that.
Do you know her in person?
No, unfortunately not. But I've done most of her work, her books, just to sometimes you just need a reminder.
Sure. Great
But the
books.
morning pages are amazing. I still do them.
Yeah. I I also tried the morning pages. Just I prefer paint than write. So it's
Yeah, but you write you write in the morning your dreams. That can be your morning
not
pages.
every. Sometimes I don't dream any useful.
Oh,
Sometimes I
okay.
just wake up screaming because I dream about spiders and stuff. I'm very much afraid of.
Maybe you should paint them.
No way. I went to Art Basel two years ago when these huge monstrous spiders of bourgeois was they were exhibited in the middle of the sun. Oh my god, I thought to myself, I got to get out of here very soon. I hate them so much. But
Oh God.
I understand
Yeah.
what they are about.
Yeah.
But
But
okay.
anyways,
hmm
you also have a painting, which that was the first thing I saw. I want to talk two paintings. First is Time Machine, the story of the time
Oh.
machine. What is the story of the time machine? It's so intricate to see it. You see hard bodies, you see radars, you see machine type things. It's
Yeah. The time for me is like a robot, like a machine. It just grinds people. It tears them apart. Time makes us disappear, and it has no story about anyone. Doesn't matter how accomplished you are, how good you are, how bad, beautiful, or anything. You just disappear. And I think it would be totally normal to run up and down on the street, shouting everywhere, oh my God, everybody's going to die. It's so horrible to me. I don't understand. I can't accept this fact that I'm going to die. it's it's so horrible. I will never ever can make friends with this idea, and that's why I imagined time as a machine. She's so cruel to people, and I put the machine on a wall because when I see a nice old fresco, I always have this feeling
Mhm.
that like 2000 years ago, it was a wonderful, colorful, living painting. And now I can only see two or three little pieces of the fresco. That's what times the
What
time
time
makes
does.
with everything with us. No, when we die, our kids or our friends will remember us. Maybe our grandkids too, but after two or three generations, nobody will remember us. Even those people who could remember us, they will also die, and there is nothing what will remain after us. I think that's the main subconscious reason behind art. We want to leave a mark on the world. We want to leave something behind because not just our kids, because our kids and grandkids are always subject of death too,
Mm.
and uh, and we would like to leave something tangible, a building, a sculpture, painting, a piece of music, anything. And okay, this is maybe just a childish attempt to conquer time.
It's not childish. It's not. I think you're very right, but um, time can give you overwhelm also because we're constantly forced into a time frame.
Mm,
So I write you, I say, yeah, we have the same time frame because I'm also in Europe. Okay, but it's weird. It's an invention. Time is an invention. And
sure.
it's relative. That's what Einstein said. It's
Mm-hmm.
relative. And I spoke to someone and I said, you know what? I sometimes feel in the day I do not have enough time. I want 48 hours in one day instead of 24. And then I learned about the Delta doorway. And I learned about how you can train your neurology to do things anyway,
Mm-hmm.
also in your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like, wow, that's a good thing. I'm going to try that. In that way, I don't lose time, I gain time.
Mm-hmm.
And I rest at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And what can you do in during your
Well, what they did, they put musicians next to each other. Well, they were not music, but people who played a piece, learned a piece on the piano,
mm-hmm.
like practicing, practice, practice, practice.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had someone who did this in their mind, the same piece, but purely in
Mm-hmm.
their mind, visualizing and seeing themselves play it and study it. And they had another group that I don't know what they did, but anyway, the people who did it in their minds knew the piece after so they got a frame, a time frame. Here we go again. But then after a certain time, they were able just as much to play it as the people who had studied it in a physical.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Interesting.
had like, yeah, that way you can train your brain also to, before you go to sleep, I can say, for instance, see myself playing the cello because I want that. I see it and I take that piece and I see that I play it and I fall asleep like that. And I train that in my head,
Mm-hmm.
which saves me time when I go and actually study it.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
So it's almost like collapsing time because I feel the same like you. Sometimes I want 48 hours in one day. There's not enough. And I try to think differently about what we have created about time
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah,
it's an
but
invention.
mm-hmm.
And it's invented to let us work from 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5,
9 to 9.
9 to 9, 9 to 10, 24 hours. But then,
Mm.
yeah, you know what I mean.
I know exactly. So when people ask me, uh, if I work only when I have an inspiration, I hate this word. I hate it so much, inspiration.
Mm.
I don't need inspiration. People have this idea that we are just sitting there waiting for something happening.
Yeah. Mm.
It's very, yes, exactly. It's so funny. You know, I can run out of the word when people start to talk about waiting for inspiration.
Yeah. Well, you can wait till eternity, but
yeah.
yeah.
So it's not like that. I'm really happy that you do this podcast, so at least people can have some idea about how this whole process works.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's wonderful that you've painted your time machine and the story behind it. It's a very intricate painting. And I like this fresco idea behind it also, that over time it gets peeled off and it slowly vanishes and you see parts and parts you don't. Um, but yeah, it's the story of the current time and the time we live in.
Mhm.
So you have another painting. How to choose fate. That's the last painting I want to talk about. How to choose your fate, because that I had like, okay, I can have several ideas with this.
Mhm.
Because it's a huge painting. You see a cross and a baby stripped to it.
Mhm.
Nothing violent. It's very soft and nice. And
Yeah.
then you see a male bike and a female bike. And I had like, okay, is this an indication towards the boxed thinking of either be a man or a woman?
No. I didn't think about that.
Okay.
You know, we just had two bikes, my bike and my husband's bike. That's only a practical solution, and there was no idea in that. Actually, there are three bikes in the painting.
Mm-hmm.
There is a third bike, which you can see from behind. It's going in the painting.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
totally fresco part. You can see it only if you enlarge the painting. And the bicycles represent our choices. Because I was thinking about this fate problem, how if we can choose it or not. And it it all went back to our decisions, because our decisions form our fate. And the bicycles symbolize the different decisions we make in life, because when you make a decision, it means you go in one direction, you don't go into another direction. That's why the landscape is in the background, and all the roads which go into the landscape, they symbolize our choices in life.
Mm-hmm.
When you are 3 years old, you know you can be anything. You can be a spaceman, or I wanted to be a vegetable seller when I was 3.
Okay.
So you can be a astronomer, scientist, fireman, whatever you want to be. But when you are 40, you made certain decisions, and you cannot be an astronaut anymore, because you made decisions which led to other directions. So, but then I started to think about the problem of making decisions. That's why I told you that one problem leads to another problem in my paintings. All of my paintings are very logical. If you look at them, they are surprising at first sight. But if I talk about the thinking process, everything just gets together. So our decisions are based on our personalities, because even sisters, brothers in the same family. They were raised together by the same parents, but if we are put in a decision situation, we make different decisions. And I realized that our personality, it's more or less fixed when we are 1.5, 2, 3 years old, that early in the family. And that's why the baby is on the cross, because our personality is our cross. Also, our personality shows the way how we cope with everything in life, but we not just cope with things in life, but we also make our life a lot more difficult than it could be because of our personality, because of our bad habits and all the negative experiences we gathered in our early childhood, like we don't trust people enough. For example, I just said something. We carry on these personality traits which not useful for us anymore. We cannot cope with them anymore, but we still mm, we just cannot get rid of them. They are stick to us like sticky bad something. It's like a cross on our back. And that's what psychotherapy is about, how to get rid of your cross. Possible 100%, but at least you can keep a little distance from your cross and you can look at it, and that the distance makes it actually smaller. It's not huge,
The
but you
further
have to
away.
carry on your back.
Yeah.
So that's why the baby is on the cross, and your personality will tell you how you make your decisions, which form your fate. In short, that's the painting is about. And
It's interesting. It's interesting because the cross, in a way, is then your subconscious mind. That's where everything is programmed in your first 6 years.
Exactly.
And you take that with you.
Yeah. In your
So
subconscious.
that's not even, that doesn't need to be your personality. It can be the blueprint of your parents that you don't want. But yeah, you got that because our brains are in a theta and delta and alpha brainwave, so you absorb like crazy. That's why kids learn so quickly.
Yeah. Also, it's important where you were born, where you spend the first couple of years of your life, because also there is for example, a common Netherlandish heritage. There's a common Hungarian heritage, common German, Russian, whatever, which is also absorbed by your mind, your subconscious, and your personality, and it affects what kind of religion you experienced around you, where you were born, and so many things. There are studies even about how the place where you were born affects your art career. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I could talk for hours with you.
Oh,
But,
thank you. So good to talk to you, Corinne. Yeah.
but yeah, thank you. Where can people find you?
My homepage is anikoboda.com, but Instagram is a lot fresher because I'm very bad at handling my homepage. I should be more conscientious about it, but I'm one of those artists who really hate this kind of things to do, of course. And my Instagram is Anikó Boda Studio. So if anyone is interested in the latest works and news, and he or she can find me there.
Great. I will put that in the show notes. I already follow you.
Thank you,
This was such an interesting talk for episode 88 of our talk. Wow, thank you so much for being with me and for your very interesting stories that you have to share with us and your thoughts process. And yeah, so I will put that in the show notes, and everyone needs to follow you to see what we were talking about.
Thank you, Karin. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.